on the offensive straight away. Jack Harrison here. Jack Harrison bringing the ball forward. He's played it into Pablo Hernandez, edge of the area. Hernandez goes for goal! What a start to the game! 17 seconds on the clock. It's got to be one of the quickest goals of the Sky Bet Championship season. Goes for goal! And finds the back of the net in sensational fashion.
Jones now for Leeds. And McNabb only half stopping him. Jones getting it across. And Clark going in! And Alan Clark has put Leeds ahead!
Down under. Viduka is a sporting god in Australia and now in West Yorkshire. Here he is again. It's Viduka. It's four. It's all his own work.
Well, hello everybody and good morning. The eve of Leeds United, or the morning of, well, the day before Leeds' massive game against West Ham United. Make sure you check out, everybody, the video that we did yesterday with the fantastic Dan Lawless of West Ham Fan TV. If you want a little bit of an insight into the West Ham side of things, and I think the Oppo previews coming back this year have been like a fantastic addition back to the channel. I used to love doing them back in the day. Really gives you an insight on what the other clubs are like and what they're feeling. And I thought Dan yesterday, there was a couple of points of which he made from the West Ham perspective where I was like, oh, I 110% hadn't have thought of that. So make sure you check that out, everybody. It's a real insight into the Hammers. It's a real insight into them going forward and potentially them regressing as a football club. So really interesting bits over there. Fascinating. Make sure you check that out after this video. Second channel is live and pumping, everybody. I will be over there with Callum Fowler in our show, Added Time, predicting the weekend's fixtures, which obviously is going to affect Leeds United in more ways than one, hopefully positively. We've got bits to talk about today. We've got Harry Gray, how the impact of Archie Gray could maybe impact that of Harry Gray's movement. How would that affect PSR? We're going to get into that. We're going to be speaking about a youngster at Leeds United, some describing as a generational talent at Leeds United, attracting the interest of Dortmund, Leverkusen, and other clubs in and around Europe. We're going to be talking about the injury news. We're going to be talking about your comments from the last video, the top comments from the last video. We're going to be speaking about the injury news, the updated as of today injury news. And we're going to be speaking about a former chairman whose trip to Elland Road has been withdrawn as of today. And obviously, we're going to be speaking about the stadium expansion and maybe a little bit of a bump in the road when it comes to that. If you would do me a favor, everybody, slap a like on the video. We will be going online later on with the podcast that we do on Patreon as well. It's the weekly podcast I do with Oscar Marriott, and it's a little bit looser. It's a little bit funnier if you fancy a less methodical show reel than what we do over here, if we want to call it that. Like slightly more informal. I know some of you guys really enjoy that sort of stuff. So yes, brilliant stuff. Morning, Leslie. What's cooking? Nothing much, buddy. Nothing much. I'm excited to see a lot of you in here and a lot of you on the watch along tomorrow. It's weird, isn't it? Friday evening, Friday Leeds United. Morning all, morning Connor. Class intro. Thanks, buddy. Cole's in the building. Simon's here as well. Martin, Tom Johansson, Andrew, Luca, Jan, and all the regulars. Gary's in here. I hope you enjoy. Gary got his OK jersey. So did Mr. P as well the other day. So, guys, if you want to check those guys out as well, you can either look there. There you go. On screen now, code Leeds for 8% off. Link in the description below. Also, everybody, get involved in BetMate this weekend. 12 of you can get paid out. 14 of you can get paid out. I put some bits. I put my seven-aside fantasy team in place for the Champions League. I put £1.50 in. I was paid out as someone who came 12th and I was paid out something like £21. So that is what you can do with BetMate. Only can, go through my link as well, affiliate link in the description below. It's really good on a weekend, really interactive and fun. And you can get involved with the community over there. They really promote that. So make sure you do that, as well as looking at our other sponsors, Shop Gino, the Job Match Group, and of course, Match Bingo. Okay, morning Nige, morning Chris. Where's Wally? Is back. He is indeed, mate. The Wally glasses are back on. I need some more, maybe some like what are they like? Just maybe narrower ones, but these are like I've got quite a small face, believe it or not, so not a lot fits me. But anyway, there we go. Okay, let's get in to your first bit of news, everybody, this fine morning, shall we? So we're going to be speaking about Harry Gray and Archie Gray. So there's been a couple of articles going about this morning and yesterday about Archie Gray and the impact that might have PSR-wise on Harry Gray's potential movement. We know Harry Gray turned 17, therefore he can only sign a 3-year contract, and that's because of his age. Now, there's a lot of people saying, well, because he's a young lad, because he's come through the academy, he can be utilised there as pure profit for LUFC, which is still 100% true. Now, the context behind this is Archie had made over 50 appearances for Leeds United. Now, people are correlating Archie and Harry, obviously the pure profit stance of which, went with Archie, which wasn't ideal, but he had made 50 appearances for Leeds United. And the difference between Archie and Harry is Archie was a financial necessity. Leeds failed to win promotion and needed to sell players within profit and sustainability to obviously hit the required bracket. Archie's departure, along with Jorginho and Crescencio Somerville, who will be back tomorrow night, great, helped ease the club's financial pressure, but obviously was still an absolute break for Leeds fans. Now, the comparison with Harry Gray, just to ease a lot of you guys, is Harry's obviously just signed his professional contract. We all know that. It's described as long-term, but can only be 3 years, meaning his contract runs until summer 2028, which means Leeds will be able to get a decent fee for him, akin to that of maybe Archie. Obviously, the fan base, I can tell by you guys in the comment section as well, were very relieved by that. And obviously, it ends speculation about his future, of which Tottenham Hotspur were apparently on the pulse of. Now, unlike the Archie situation, Leeds don't intend to sell Harry to help with PSR. Okay, Popey's come out and said yesterday that Leeds see Harry as part of their long-term future, not as an asset to sell for profit. Although selling him would represent pure profit to Leeds United. Could we maybe revisit this if we are to get relegated and Leeds are to get a large amount of funds when, we're going down? If we do go down and we're able to alleviate some of that financial burden, so that's always going to be there, it feels like. But the club is described as hell-bent on keeping Harry, which always felt that when we went down, and obviously when we failed that first year of going back up in promotion, that second season in the Championship there was always going to be financial problems in that second year. So many issues when it comes to not going back up in your first year and having that springboard. So Archie was sold out of necessity to meet PSR demands. Harry, though his sale would yield pure profit, is not considered for sale. Leeds want him to develop and stay long-term, ideally as part of a stable Premier League Leeds United. Let's hope so, eh? Let's hope so. Lee Evans says, we need to stop selling all our crown jewels for the sake of PSR. FK PSR, take the points, fine, and then sell your future stars. Yeah, it feels like that, doesn't it, Lee? I mean, we're very careful as a football club, aren't we? And I believe that is how you maintain sustainability. It's how you maintain momentum. It's how you maintain structure at a football club, especially from that financial stance. You need to be careful. You need to work within the parameters of which, unfortunately, this whole football pyramid that we're in now is bestowed upon us, which has, put this PSR element in, which restricts clubs like Leeds United. We all want that hope and that dream that maybe one day Leeds United can win the Premier League. PSR sort of hampers that, doesn't it? Massively hampers that. Leeds United can win anything. We can go on and win an FA Cup, a League Cup. PSR hampers a lot of that, unfortunately. Oliver Beckman, morning. Malik's in here. MW as well. Ian Brown, the absolutely obsessed Sunderland fan who's in here every morning. I've got to give him his credit. Leeds live rent-free in his head, and we love seeing Ian Brown here every single morning. The Sunderland fan who's the first here and the last out. Geno says, Football Manager 26 better out soon. Manage Leeds and get them to the Premier League title. Danielito says, morning, Connor and Crow. Hope you're well for Friday's game. I'm feeling nervous, anxious, and excited all at the same time. Steve says, how come we were hamstrung with PSR when Barcelona owes us over 30 million for Rafa and all the money we got for Rutter and Somerville, says Stephen. Yeah, it's a little bit different, mate, when it comes to Rafinha. We did a story on the rumour mill about Leeds still being owed that money for Rafinha. The money actually isn't for Leeds United, it's for a lender. That is what is still owed from Barcelona. It's not to Leeds United, it's to a lender who was affiliated in the deal, obviously. Every club has sell some homegrown players. Unfortunately, it's a flawed system that needs to be changed 100%, mate. Completely agree with that. Okay, so let's get on to the next rumour when it comes to... Look, oh God, I shouldn't even have him on screen, should I? I mean, he literally looks 12 years old. Do you know when you just think to yourself, did I ever look like this? In my head, like I still look exceptionally young. Oh God, it's been a long evening. I'm feeling quite ill, everyone. But you see this kid, and you just think, how are you 16? How are you 16? You look, bless him, he looks 11 years old. So this, if you're not aware, it's not Harry Gray. This is Sam Alker, okay? 16 years of age, number 10 in the development squad, but he actually plays for the under-18s and has been capped by his country. Now, Leeds have offered Sam Alker a professional deal, of which was very similar to what they offered Harry Gray. Obviously, Gray agreed to the terms. Alker is still yet to agree personal terms with Leeds United. He turned 17 in March. And interestingly enough, according to the BBC this morning, there has been 2 clubs that have registered their interest and have been monitoring Alker for around about 12 months now. And that is Borussia Dortmund and Bayer Leverkusen. Now, this is interesting in itself because we know there's the German element who really monitor. It feels like there's a huge scouting network from Bundesliga clubs now in England, because obviously there's so many clubs like Chelsea, Man City, who basically don't give players chance. They don't give the players the chance to go out and play in the first team. So then you look at the Bundesliga and they say, well, we'll give them the chance. We are a lesser league, but we will give players chances who you will not give chances. So let's take them off your hands. You know, they've got huge scouting networks, according to the Independent, in the Championship as well, looking at young stars down there. So the Bundesliga clubs are really trying to, and I think they're kind of doing it the right way, to be honest with you, because they're coming in, they're signing a lot of these young players, they're bringing them out to the Bundesliga, they're harnessing, the players are growing, they're developing. We've seen huge superstars do it very, very recently as well, when it comes to Sancho, when it comes to Bellingham, and many more. And I like that element of it. I don't like this element of it, you know, but this is just football clubs in general. You know, Sam Alker is 16 years old, and bless him, he looks, doesn't he? He looks 10 years old. But apparently Dortmund and Leverkusen are very, very interested in his services. He turned 17 in March. I think it's just absolutely bewildering that you can do this in football, but it is what it is. Would be free to join foreign clubs, apparently, according to this specific report by the Mail. But he wouldn't be able to actually sign. So he would be a Dortmund player. He would be a Leverkusen player, but actually signing and going out and playing for these clubs, he wouldn't be able to do that till 2027, which you feel would hamper his development a little bit in terms of just game, match preparation, sharpness. But obviously he would be in some sort of developmental setup where I'm sure he gets minutes, but he wouldn't be playing for the first team. And he likely wouldn't be playing for the first team at Leeds United, but you never know. What's his development going to be in the next 2 years? You know, could be the next Bellingham, couldn't he? Could be the next. He's only 16 years of age. That sort of growth between 16 and 18 is absolutely massive. He looks a little bit of a small lad as well. How much is he going to physically develop? But I just can't stand this level in football where it's like, you know, you've got 13, 14, 15, 16-year-old kids just getting poached by top European clubs. It just feels like, you know, you want to get back to yesteryear where it was, you know, these players develop, they sign this pro contract. And that's why I was so happy about Harry signing that professional contract, not being attracted by the lure of his brother, you know, at Tottenham. And Alker, for me, needs to do the same thing. But obviously, I'm not his mum, I'm not his dad. But you wonder what their influence is going to be in this decision as well. Because a lot of the time now, agents are parents, as we've seen with Bellingham, as we've seen with other kids in the system as well, who rely on the parents. And I quite like that anyway, because we know what agents are like. But parents still will get the agent fee. So maybe that's going to be encompassed with some sort of Sam Alker deal out to Bundesliga sides as well. What I can't understand is why we are so close to the PSR limit. Sold grain, Somerville for pure profit, Leeds issuing new shares to generate revenue, Red Bull deal, and now Prem money makes no sense. I guess, Mike, when you look at the accounts at the end of the year, they never specify what's happened and where it's gone. That's always the confusing thing with these unfortunate deals that get done. I think when you look at the accounts, it basically rolls obviously from 1 month in 1 year to the same month in the next year, and basically Leeds United have got to collate a certain amount of funding between that 12-month period. So obviously when a player signs for a club, if it is in outside that bracket, then that goes into either the previous or the latter year period when it comes to the accounting. So yeah, it formulates in and around that basically. So we're never going to know the specifics of it, because that would be ridiculous from the club to release that sort of information. We all just kind of wait to see what's going on at the end of the year, when maybe Leeds Live or the YEP publish where Leeds are, if they're in the green or in the red. But yeah, it feels like, the club losses in that second year will have been big. They will have been absolutely big. A lot of what people forget as well is someone like Kamara. Kamara was sold for 10 million quid that year. 10 million quid. So that's another little bit as well. Right, we'll get, it feels a bit weird just having this child on the screen here. The kid's got good advisors, not rushing an offer and holding out for better deals. Indeed, let's hope so. The kids won't want to stay there if there's no progress in the first team. Luke says, now he has a contract. Can we send Harry Gray straight on loan to get experience? We can indeed, Luke. We can indeed. I don't know if we want to do it at this moment in time. Don't know if you caught the interview as well the other day, that he was saying that he's learning finishing techniques off Dominic Calvert-Lewin. So maybe we need to send him on loan. Get him away. Oh, God. Tommy says, good morning, Connor lad. Hey, mate, how's it going? Okay, let's get into the next realm of conversation, shall we? And this is going to be around Anton Stach and the injuries that we've got. Obviously, intertwined with Leeds United at this moment in time, which is not ideal. Leeds are really struggling, as we know, when it comes to keeping certain players fit and certain players in and around the squad. And the team news when it comes to Anton Stach is very interesting. Farke was speaking yesterday about the issues with his form, Anton Stach's form, and he said within the last 2 games there is definitely been a decrease in his performances. But he said at the very beginning of the campaign, he obviously had a very good start to Leeds United proceedings. Farke said that it was a bit to do with him playing with a broken finger. He had a problem with his body, so you have 2 or 3 problems as a player. Sometimes you are more concentrated on yourself than to play with freedom. I do think you can tell in the last few games that they were not poor performances, but perhaps he's not on top level like he was before, which I think we can all agree with. I think it will be important for him to get rid of this physical problem with his finger and ribs. As soon as he gets back to top physical fitness, he will then be able to keep going and deliver top performances. This week of having time to recover was beneficial to them, and I hope he can step up a little bit. So, I mean, really, that says to me, and we'll flash up now exactly what that means when it comes to the custom lineup. But for me, this leans into the likelihood of this being the starter for Leeds United. And I think he really likes Stach. I think, on the contrary, he actually really likes Longstaff as well. But I think Stach, on the basis of what Farke said there, because they've had this week off, they've had a longer time off than West Ham United. Obviously, he's been suffering with his ribs, a broken finger, which can impact your performance. Of course it is, maybe when you're going into tackles, or maybe when you're looking at, hitting the deck at certain points and blocking and intercepting, you're a little bit worried about that finger and the ribs when it comes to impact. So I do think Anton will start this game. I think there is a genuine reason for him to be dropped in this game for me. I don't think he's been good enough over the last probably 2 or 3 games, really. And, there is a conversation that, obviously, in that last game, he was maybe at fault for that wonder strike for Burnley, but I think there's a couple of players at fault. But Stach was just ball watching, and you've got to be a little bit more disciplined in the Premier League. I would like to see Stach in a little bit more of a 6 role. Now, what we do know is there could be a conversation where there's last-minute calls between Ethan Ampadu and Pascal Struijk, who are in the side right now, as you can see on screen. Farke mentioned yesterday that he believes Okafor and Nonto, well, they haven't team trained, which is obviously a big problem. Leeds might release a little bit more footage today and potentially tomorrow morning, like they sometimes do, of them training, which might give us a little bit of an insight as to them being on the bench. But if you've not actually taken part in team training throughout the week, that is going to be a little bit of a problem for starting availability, of course, because you're just not going to be match fit. But they've not been out that long when it comes to maybe Okafor. But then you look at Willy Gnonto, he's been out for like 5-6 games now. You know, he got 1 minute against Fulham, and before that, it was the first 3 games of which he didn't complete 90 minutes. And I mentioned this yesterday, but you know, when you look at Okafor, when you look at Gnonto, and even when you throw Dan James in there, none of them have completed 90 minutes. So another one that you want to look at in there is Pascal Struijk, and we'll get onto the starting 11 in just a little bit, of course. But it does feel like Stach will be starting this game, in my opinion. So get your thoughts in the comment section below. What would you like to see and what do you think will happen? Let's have a quick look. Jam says, morning, Con in chat. Really don't get why you would play a half-fit player. What message does that send to Tanaka? Tanya says, DCL needs to learn finishing from Archie Gray the other way around. 100%, yeah. Isn't that where he's always played the 6, says Connor? Yeah, it is. And it's where he's played, obviously, for Hoffenheim. That was his position. And that's kind of why, guys and gals, I was looking at potentially that 3-4-1-2 formation. If DJ isn't fully back and isn't fully ready to take part in proceedings, I know he's mentioned that, you know, he's getting there. They're the words used. He's getting there. But if he isn't ready to do that, you can go without, I've said this 450 times, you can switch your formation to not have wingers and effectively have your wing backs as wingers. And then you can have that covering body in there with that extra centre back, but also the central midfielders, the 2 6s that would be in there now, being a little bit more disciplined. And when the wing backs go, them knowing when to cover. There's got to be triggers in that midfield. There's got to be triggers for those fullbacks. But there is a way around this. I don't think we're going to go to a 3-4-1-2. I don't think the adaptability will be that much, but you know, you look at someone like Struijk coming back in or staying in, sorry, then you kind of go to a back 3 of him, Bijol, Rodon. If you look at it as well with what Dan was saying yesterday from West Ham Fan TV, he was saying that, look, balls into the box we've struggled with, balls over the top we've struggled with as well. Set pieces were not great from. So if you get someone like Jakob Bijol in there as well, these are potentially marginal gains that we get from not only defending our box, of which we're now conceding a few silly goals, but to attacking as well. You know, when you're having an absolute 6'4" force in there, who's probably the thickest, most physical defender we've got. So, yeah, Charles says, I really want to see Bijol starting a league game, but not a Mickey Mouse Cup game. Just put Bijol on the pitch in a game that matters and see what he does. Everything depends on Farke learning. It does indeed. Surely Bijol comes in for the big sexy pirate, says Dan. Yeah, I think so. I do think it is a little bit harsh on Pascal. I'll be honest. I think it is a bit harsh on Pascal. There's been moments where I've said to you guys that he frustrates the life out of me sometimes with his just jockeying attackers instead of just going out and absolutely engaging. And that first touch, you then go out. But I also understand that at Premier League level, the technical level of some of these players, if you go into engage within the first 1 or 2 touches, there is a genuine possibility that that player skips out, skips past you. You've then got a big hole behind you. You're out of position. Jockeying can feel a little bit safer sometimes. But I just think Pascal does that to an extent of which sometimes it is, which way do you go? You know, you're almost damned if you do, damned if you don't. But if you step off, we've seen with players this season, Matthias Tell, we've seen with, you know, Mohamed Kudus, we've seen it with other players as well. Even I would probably strike another one there with the Burnley second goal. If you don't engage, you know, there is a likelihood as well that they can put the ball in from 20 yards out. They're all such accurate sharpshooters. So at this level anyway. So there's a conversation to be had about Pascal coming in. I'll be honest with you guys. If Bijol was to come in, I would like Bijol to come in as part of a back 3. That's what I would like. I think as well that would help Pascal when it comes to protection. And yeah, maybe gives him a little bit more license to step out from that back line and for Bijol to cover a little bit as well. Let's bear in mind as well, Bijol playing out from the back has got some really good numbers as well. Let's also bear in mind that he was one of Serie A's best performers when it came to defensive attributes. So look, this is a guy who's Newcastle wanted at the last minute as well. Other clubs in and around Europe wanted, but then Leeds managed to get him. This was one of those terminology, statement signings that Leeds United made in the summer. So, yeah, we would like to see him on the pitch. I wonder if Farke is going to go to this at some stage. But let's bear in mind, against Tottenham Hotspur, we went to a back three. All he did was drag Ampadu to that back three. He didn't bring Bijol on. So, yeah. Easy says, Connor, is there a stigma for the 3-4-1-2 that Farke was utilising during pre-season? I mean, he didn't have the players really for 4-3-3 then. Currently, he doesn't have now due to injuries. Why not revert? Yeah, I mean, look, if people haven't seen it so far, I'll get it up on screen, and some of you might be bored of me saying this, but I just see this lineup, and I just see it as something that maybe you could utilize. Let's say if Tanaka, if you're looking at maybe Dan James not being completely fit, you saw Felix scoring the other night, didn't you, for Dortmund? Could Lucas replicate that? That'd be nice, wouldn't it? But I feel like in that 6 role, even in a 3-4-1-2, and I'll get the visual up for you guys now. But even in a 3-4-1-2, if Ampadu's not there, you can have Stach, and then you can have maybe Stach and then Longstaff, and then just Tanaka in front as well. I think that'd work. And then you can fold into like a midfield 5 as well. When you're defending, it goes into a 3-5-2 anyway. When you're in possession, it's a 3-4-1-2. But then when you fold back, you collapse into a 3-5-2, don't you? And then you've got the physical presences up top. By the way, they're struggling at the back with physicality. They're struggling with balls in behind as well. We know over a short distance, I think Metra's quite quick. So that ball over the top, the physical presences that you could put up against Kilman, and you could put up against, Mavropanos isn't going to be fit for this one, but you could put against their 2 centre-backs. Dan was saying it last night, they're not dealing with physicality well this season. So that's kind of where I'm looking. You've kind of always got to listen to the opposition fan base as well, because I think it's really important. They've got the fingers on the pulse a little bit more than what we do. So let's just get this visual up for you guys now. I know there's been a few of you who have seen this already, but so bang, does that work? So this is ideally what I think would work. I think we've got a lot of the profiles to work this, and you're effective. You've got the cover there in the 3 centre-backs, and Jaden and Gabby effectively work as wing-backs anyway. And then you've got the ability for even deep line crosses. So if you've got 2 players playing up top, you've got the ability to effectively deep lie that cross. So Goodmanson on the halfway line, if he wants to knock the ball into Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Metra could feed off it. I think Tanaka, it'd be really nice to see him in that 8 position, of which he's played for Japan. Stach has very regularly played that number 6 as well. And would that aid him a little bit more, not asking him to do that box-to-box work, reverting him back to a number 6, him next to Ampadu? Look, I think that works. I think all of this works. I think the dynamic completely works. I think Leeds defending as well. You go into, let's have a quick look and see if this works. Hopefully it does. If I might be able to show you guys out of possession how Leeds would work. There we go. So yeah, that's how Leeds would work. It's obviously not got the formation right here, which is not the set selection right. But out of possession, that's how Leeds would fall back as well. Probably a little bit deeper with the 3 in midfield. Tanaka would drop from that 8 into a 6 role. So you'd have 3 6s really in the middle out of possession. You'd have Gabby Goodmanson realistically and Jaden Bogle folding back into a back 5. So you'd have a 5-3-2 probably. So yeah, it'd be a 3-5-2 and a 5-3-2 really out of possession. But I think in possession, it works really nicely for Leeds United, and it's unpredictable and it fits the profiles that we've got in my opinion anyway. Okay. Farke won't change. I know you have to be positive, Connor, but in your own mind. Yeah, well, do you know what, mate? Do you know what? All the formation does depend. It depends massively on the fitness. But in general, I think we could play this formation. In general, okay? I think that could work in some games. And I always mention this, and I'm on here every morning talking about Thomas Frank. But if Thomas Frank can do it with the wingers that he had available to him and how he was able to be versatile in formations and sometimes not really focus on the width, because he doesn't need to. You can be compact against other teams, against certain teams. I think certain teams require certain formations that should already be being exercised in strategy and training for me. But, if you wanted to go to a 4-3-3 and we've got players available, let's be brutally honest, Leeds still have a good cohort available for this game. But if we were to, let's take Pascal out of proceedings, okay, and let's pretend he's injured, because that still is a likelihood for this game. Let's have a look. Daniel James. So we'll get James out wide right. But this, we all know that this would happen. Okay. If we're playing the 4-3-3, this will 100% happen. Okay, so Metra comes out, which I would quite like to see Metra in this starting 11. So for me, that just it just doesn't look as potent. And I still see in a 4-3-3 Stat in the number 8. And I think if Longstaff comes in, Tanaka then goes to the 6. So I think Tanaka goes to the 6 and you have Longstaff, and I think you have Stach as the 8s. So I think a 3-4-1-2 really accentuates the 2 6s and a number 8, of which I would like. It's almost like a 2 and a 1 in the midfield as opposed to a 1 and a 2. So you go from 2 6s, 2 6s and an 8 to 2 8s or a 6 and a 6, in the other formation, the other dynamic. So Peru might play better off DCL, and Metra is a similar profile to DCL and also can't finish. I think it's slightly harsh. I think it is slightly harsh on Metra to say that, because he's just not been exposed that many minutes, in front of goal. Who's to say that, if he was there for that Bournemouth game and he was going through on goal, who's to say that Metra wasn't putting it in? Who's to say that? We've not seen enough of him, have we? But I think the complications, we're going back to a certain style of football, guys. We're going back to long throws. We're going back to set pieces being prevalent. Let's reintroduce a front 2. We've been played through Dominic Calvert-Lewin anyway. Let's reintroduce a front 2. I don't understand why we're scared about this. Have an additional body up top. Obviously, you're sacrificing it to a certain extent, on parts of the pitch, but you're getting Bijol in there as well. It's a proactive change. I mentioned this before. I'm not going to go in, and we mentioned this with Brownie. This is the key point here. If Daniel Farke was to go to something a little bit different, we'd all be there, even the haters on Daniel Farke, and say, fair play to you, mate. And even if we lost the game, I'd say, fair play. You've at least changed it up. I'd be frustrated, and the game might pan out in a certain way of which builds frustration. But I'd say, do you know what? Fair enough, mate. Fair enough. You've tried to change it up. You've introduced bodies. If the players haven't been receptive to that, then fair enough. Or maybe it's not worked in terms of combinations, partnerships, etc. It's not worked, but at least you've tried it. At least you've tried something different. The problem is, you and I both know what's going to happen. We both know what's going to. I'll predict that is going to happen. I predicted the lineup at the weekend, bang on. I predicted how the game was going to flow at the weekend, and that's not because I'm some sort of genius, some wizardry going on. It's because we've seen this so many times. It's not to say it's not been a success in phases, but it's very predictable. It's very predictable what's going to happen. So the change here, if we're being to be realistic, it would probably be the fact that Strauch's out, Bijol comes in, which a lot of people have been wanting. I personally think with the lack of wingers that we have available, I think a 3 works. I think a 3 works anyway, to be honest with you. And I think the profiling of Stach and Tanaka needs to change in that midfield. And I would like to see Dominic Calvert-Lewin being less isolated. What I would say is at home at Elland Road, I think there's going to be a push. I think there will be a push. I think the crowd are going to be exceptional on a Friday night under the lights, and I think Leeds will be attacking a lot more. It's just, can you be profitable with the likes of Jack Harrison, Nahar, Fit Dan James, either side of Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who's got 1 goal in 6? A lot of people have said Peru. Yeah, if you go with the front 2, can you play Peru just off Dominic Calvert-Lewin? But I would be looking to put Metra in there. I think Metra and Dominic Calvert-Lewin, let's wait and see. And then we can at least all turn around the watch along on the match reaction and go, fair enough. Farke tried. He did something different. But it's the predictability, because, yeah. And there is a likelihood that Brendan Aronson is going to be in the starting 11. We all know that. So, the lack of width reminds me of Jesse Marsh, mate. Some of the stats talking in press conferences is also reminding me of Jesse Marsh. Paul Carpenter says, totally agree with the 3 at the back, but Darlow is Welsh. Mate, I know. I tell you what, just for all the Welsh lot, or even the English lot who are forcing him onto the Welsh, I will let the data providers know. Is Gruev still with us? Yeah, I think if Ampadu was to come out, mate, that would be the change. I think Gruev would come in for Ampadu. And then we've got also, guys, I wanted to just pigeon out as well that Leeds United's former owner, Andrea Radrizzani, this is so funny. Leeds United have withdrawn their initial invite for Radrizzani, 51, Italian, who took a full ownership. Leeds obviously took 49 took full ownership of Radrizzani in 2023. The Daily Mail Sport understands the Leeds hierarchy were not pleased with Radrizzani's decision to reveal details of his return in an exclusive interview to an outlet earlier this month. Oh, I wonder why that is. The invitation for Radrizzani to be in the director's box was made public by Parag, but it was officially withdrawn Shortly after the interview went public, with Radrizzani informed that it was unnecessary for him to disclose details of the return and it would be better for him to turn up at another time. Rad says, I will come soon to watch a game. I miss it. I didn't want to come in the championship because it would hurt me. But now it's time to come back. I'm in touch with Prague. So he's not said anything too like out there, but the guy is such a mouthpiece and has always been such a mouthpiece, especially if they've turned around and thought, you know, they don't want to make a big thing out of it, because there's a lot of Leeds fans who, you know, Rads, let's be honest, was the bringer of Bielsa. Without Radrizzani, we're not getting Bielsa. Radrizzani hires Orta. Orta then goes out with Kinnear to recruit Bielsa. Without Radrizzani, you haven't got Bielsa. You know, but it all turned into chaos at the end. The mismanagement of the club was nothing short of abysmal. I mean, I think they were talking about the two, like, the shortest managers when they were talking about Nuno at Forest, the shortest managers in like Premier League history. And I think Leeds were up there with like Grazia and Allardyce. And that, yeah, just chaos that season when we got relegated. So we obviously know as well that, you know, they should have sacked Marsh after, or, you know, before the Bournemouth and Liverpool matches, but because they were so weak, they were persuaded by you know, fan sentiment and how buoyant everybody was after those two victories. But yeah, he's just funny with Rads because he just cannot help himself. You know, he cannot help himself, can he? Just yapping at people, to whoever he wants. You know, I just remember those interviews when he was in charge of Leeds United and, you know, saying to, I think it was to the Mail actually, and saying to ESPN that we're going to be a European club in X amount of time. Just shut your mouth, shut your mouth. And then when they hired Marsh, it was like, you've got a yapper here and you've got a yapper there. Oh God. So yeah, and obviously when you're using our stadium as a security mark, as Chaz quite rightly said, it's yeah. But what you have got to say with Rads is, you know, if Rads wasn't there, if Rads didn't come into Leeds United, a lot of people have very short memories. He kiboshed at the end, but a lot of people have very short memories with Radrizzani. If Radrizzani wasn't there, you got to think before that, Leeds were in the doldrums, absolute doldrums. My entire teenage years was, you know, either seeing Leeds in League One for £7 a ticket, or it was in the Championship, mid-table mediocrity, not doing anything. You know, Rudy Austin, Luke Murphy, Jason Pearce. That's what Leeds were. Radrizzani came in and that all changed because of who he hired, of course. But Rad still had to go out and, you know, when Bielsa wanted the swimming pool and the changing rooms developed and all this sort of stuff, Rads then did that and they gave him complete control. At the end, they just completely lost sight of everything that was reality and just went into somewhat sort of downward spiral. But still, that's because of what he did is why we are where we are. It's facts. So yeah, he's got to be held in some sort of esteem, I think. Okay, guys, we will leave it there. Thank you so much. We are going to be back tomorrow with the Rumour Mill. We're going to be back. It's a big day tomorrow. Back with the watch along. Please come join me from around about 7:15. We'll have the match reaction Saturday. We will also have ups and downs, the show that you guys enjoy. We won't have the hard line again, unfortunately. I am in Bilbao on Sunday, so we'll still have content out, but it's annoying, but we're not going to be able to do that. The hard line, I think it's been 3 weeks now since we've done something, so apologies, guys. It's been things on Gabe's side. It's been things on my side. Sometimes that happens. You know, Gabe's not contractually obliged to come on, and same with Brownie and same with all the other guests we have on, but yeah, we'll have to keep it there, really, and keep it locked in. But you guys need to be subscribed because there's other shows coming as well, 100%. Len says, Connor, do you worry at 3 at the back? It's a system we haven't played at all. Spent 2 years building continuity at back forward. That worry you? I think, Lens, we're losing a lot more right now. I think, as I keep saying, when it comes to it, with the back three, it's profiling, right? The profiles that Leeds have, Bijol, Joe Rodon, Pascal Struijk have all played in the back three before. Gabby Goodmanson, Jayden Bogle are both facilitators going forward. They're excellent at hitting the byline, and they're more, I think they have a better caliber at getting forward and running the line. Think of like Andy Robertson when he played for Liverpool. Andy Robertson could have ran that line by himself. There are obvious decoys, but the midfield can offer decoys in terms of it not just being, let's say, the likes of Gabby Goodmanson on that side or Bogle on that side. There can be decoys offered by those central players, Tanaka, Stach, of which they can veer over to that side and be pawns in that right side partnership as well. So you're not kind of losing out on that side. You've just got to be intelligent against the ball as well. There's got to be covering players. You've got to have triggers when Leeds are going forward and triggers for Leeds United off the ball as well. But I think with how direct we are right now in certain games, which you've seen from Leeds United this season, which is an adaptability strand, with how direct we can be with this long ball, why not at least get the ball up to Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Lucas Mecha, work off them. Unfortunately, as of right now, Leeds aren't working off of these players. They're isolated. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, for me, is isolated. In a 3-4-1-2 system, you've got Tanaka back profiled. You've got Stach back profiled in a 6. You've then got the wing backs who can run the line with combinations with the central space as well. And you can work against the ball effectively as you can, with the ball. That's how I see it anyway. And really, we have worked in a back 3 as well before because we've seen it, haven't we? Whether or not it be pre-season or whatever. But I think Leeds can work in that. I think it fits. I think it slaloms into it, really. If we play a 4-3-3 with the likes of Aronson and Harrison, what's the point? What's the point? Because we know what's going to happen then. So, we shouldn't be scared of change. This should be embedded. As I keep mentioning, mate, Brentford, with they've not had this ridiculously good Premier League squad for years and years and years. You've got to work with different systems to get the best out of different sort of players. And I think the best we get out of Bijol is putting him in a back 3, my perspective. Right. See you in a bit, everybody. Like, comment, subscribe. I'll put timestamps in if you've just come in a little bit late. Make sure you check this out on Spotify or Apple if you want to listen to it as well.